Hey guys, and welcome to QualityShot. And there's been some breaking news going around from the England and Australia camp, and I'm assuming some of it is to do with the Ashes, of course, and the fallout from that. But Justin Langer has just resigned. There's a statement as well that Cricket Australia have sent out, which we'll have a look into as well. And of course, we know Silverwood was sacked and Ashley Giles has stepped down. So a lot of changes going on in the England and Australia camps in terms of the red ball sides and also all formats for Australia. We've got Aaron with us, the Cricket Connoisseur. How are you doing, Aaron?
Absolutely fine, to be honest, mate. Other than a cold, and yes, I imagine some people might put some comments down below saying, "Why does Aaron sound so different today?" But other than that, to be honest, absolutely fine, mate. I mean, when you think about it, we're in February now. We're recording this on the day of the Under-19 World Cup final as well between England and India. That should be good. And not long to go at all until the county season starts. So lots of things to be positive about, shall we say, Faizan?
100%. Yeah, a lot to go on. Those of you who have been keeping up with the channel, you'll know that, of course, the PSL has been going. We've been covering that quite a lot as well. So that's been quite exciting. But yeah, Under-19 World Cup final. So that would be intriguing to know how that all goes as well. I think it's probably a good... Let's start off with Justin Langer because that's like the most recent news. Obviously, there's been a long discussion and debate amongst loads of cricket fans about whether he should stay, whether he should go, also whether it's the right thing to do. I think he was pretty much a dead man walking before the T20 World Cup, but then he won the T20 World Cup, won the Ashes 4-0, and it's then very hard to not give him some type of offer. So I think they were, obviously they were hoping that Australia do their best, and they managed to do well in the tournament. But ideally, from a selection point of view, it would have been better if they actually had managed to say to him, well, actually, you haven't performed very well in the last couple of months, so we're justified in doing it, on top of also his kind of disciplinary even issues that he's had. And of course, I think he's fallen out with the players. I think we can safely say as well. This is a statement that they gave. I'll just bring it up because it's quite an interesting statement where they just said that official statement is Justin Langer his resignation. Yeah, saying that they've accepted the men's team head coach Justin Langer's resignation, which was received today. He's offered a short-term extension, which I think probably is a little bit of probably a bit of egg in the face of Justin Langer. He would have been expecting something longer, and I think that's probably why he's turned it down, because he feels like he's probably been a bit disrespected and knows that they don't really want him around. So why stay? Short-term extension on top of his current contract, which he opted to not accept. So they thanked him for his outstanding leadership since he became the Australia men's team coach, obviously in all three formats in 2018, guiding them, of course, to the T20 World Cup title in 2021, and of course that 4-0 Ashes victory. Talking about him being a legend, etc. Said that apparently the extension was offered because of a thorough review process that evaluated many factors, including future requirements of the team and the upcoming extensive schedule of fixtures. It was put together. It also included an opportunity to defend the T20 World Cup title as well. Apparently he informed them that he wouldn't be taking it. And Andrew McDonald, who is I think he's the deputy head coach, isn't he, at the moment, has been named the interim head coach for now. So some interesting news. I mean, he's surprised by it, I guess, first of all, and surprised by his decision, or was it just, it was coming?
It's an interesting one, to be honest, Faizan. I'm both surprised and not surprised. I'm surprised that it's got to this point, to be honest, because as we've seen with his track record, he's been absolutely fantastic. As a coach, I don't think many people can deny that. When you think of the responsibility that was on Justin Langer's shoulders when he took over that Australia team, an Australia team at rock bottom, an Australia team which had lost its way, had lost its reputation, its image in international cricket in the wake of Sandpapergate in 2018. The way in which he took control of the reins, he appointed Tim Payne as the captain. He brought together this new identity, this new Australia team, which represented the country a lot better. And let's be honest, he's done a fantastic job from that perspective. He's been brilliant in terms of results. You look at the Ashes 4-0, the 2021 T20 World Cup, even back in 2019 with the 50-over World Cup. He made the semi-finals, and they did lose quite heavily to England. I was there at Edgbaston for that. That was a lovely day at the Fortress, but even in that competition, he turned that team into a very, very competitive outfit. So from that perspective, JL has been absolutely fantastic. However, when we talk about the off-field stuff and the behind-the-scenes stuff with both Cricket Australia and the dressing room itself, you could see little hints of this in the test, the Amazon Prime documentary series, the whole, the abrasive nature of the conversations between him and Usman Khawaja, just to name one example. It does seem as though he lost the dressing room, and that's why I'm not overly surprised why it's got to this stage. So it's disappointing, I'm going to be honest, because results-wise, I don't think any Australia fan can complain about Justin Langer's tenure. He's been absolutely brilliant in that regard. But clearly the players haven't come out and backed him. That to me suggests that there's something there which is underlying. Maybe there's this, I don't know, almost not distrust, but a dislike to his methodology and his coaching style, his techniques, his tactics that he uses. So it's an interesting one for Cricket Australia. Let's be honest, right? If we would have said this before the Ashes, would Justin Langer not even have the chance to go on that tour to Pakistan, not have the chance to defend that T20 World Cup? I don't think many people would have even considered that option. But it's happened now. Australia have got to find a long-term replacement, and that's going to be tough. But there are options. And I'm not sure if we're going to discuss these options, Faizan, but I can think of a couple, one of which would be Ricky Ponting. The only problem is he has come out on the record in interview after interview after interview saying he doesn't like the nature of international cricket schedules because he has a young family.
Exactly, yeah. Which is why he likes taking the franchise gigs, right? Because it means that he can do it short term for a couple of months, and then he can just concentrate the rest of the year and kind of pick and choose what he wants to do. Whereas it's a long-term commitment, right? And it's also a yearly commitment, constantly being the head coach of a country, so which is understandable. But there's also Trevor Bayliss, I know, is in the running, and of course the interim head coach who's in there now. He's also been deputy head coach, I think, for quite a few years, so he will most likely be one of the candidates as well. So there's a few banding about, but it'll be interesting to see because I think the way that he likes to play and maybe his I guess approach, of course, came after Sandpaper Gate, and it hasn't been like super aggressive. But I think the way that he is as a person is very fiercely competitive, and I think the way that Pat Cummins has started leading this team seems very different to the direction it was previously, the Test team, and I feel like their ideas and ideologies probably didn't marry up very nicely. And I think Pat Cummins has been given the reins and probably more control than Tim Payne was in terms of captaincy, to say and kind of have an input. And I think he was given interviews recently where they asked him about it, and he didn't say anything bad about Justin Langer, but he also didn't support him. So clearly he doesn't want him as coach, but he wouldn't say it openly. Seems like quite a nice guy coming, so I don't think he'd say it openly. But I'm sure the discussions behind the scenes was him saying, look, ideally we'd want someone else in place because he's lost the dressing room, which, as you rightfully said, was definitely hinted at in the test. And if you think that was nearly 3 years ago, so like imagine how much worse it would have got since then. Yes, winning does help, and it does definitely then deflect the attention from the dynamic between the coach and the players. But I can only do that for so long, and there's always something bubbling under the surface, and it just seemed like it was an ongoing thing. So he's almost like the Jose Mourinho of cricket, I feel. Can't stay too long at a team for and that can happen. There's coaches like that who are very, very intense. I feel like Justin Langer is one of those. So he probably isn't a long-term 5 to 10 year coach. He's someone who can do a really good job in 3-4 years, and obviously goes gung-ho, but maybe not that long-term coach. And if he's not going to be able to stay at Australia, who is seen as kind of more of an abrasive kind of country, and the people there are more kind of, I guess, well, for lack of a better word, I guess a little bit less sensitive than maybe some of the other countries are perceived as being, then it'll be interesting to see whether he does, for example, get the England job, which is something that Andrew Strauss said straight away after when he resigned, that, we might actually see if he wants to take it. So, yeah, interesting times.
Would he, though? That's the question. I've been asked this so many times this morning, because if you've seen Justin Langer outside of that coaching environment. This guy lives and breathes Australian cricket.
Yeah.
He played in so many Ashes series. He never lost an Ashes series
Yeah.
against England at home, for example. So can you imagine him being the England head coach going against the team which he dedicated pretty much all of his life to in both a playing and a coaching sense? I think he'd be a decent appointment because in terms of his style, I think that's exactly what England need. Because I'm not drawing direct comparisons. I think Andy Flower is a much better coach, actually, than Justin Langer. Obviously got a lot more experience, but you think when Andy Flower picked up the
No
mantle,
nonsense.
took
Yeah.
over the reins with England in the late 2000s into the early 2010s, that was the exact style of management that England needed at that time. Because for all of the disappointment that we've seen with England over the past year, okay, contrary to popular belief, there are some very talented cricketers here in this country, but they need to be backed, they need to be pushed. We need to set really, really high standards for these players, and we need to get them to perform. So I think for the moment, we need that kind of tough, rough and ready character, like a Justin Langer, in the same vein as an Andy Flower, for example, to really kick this England side into gear. And I suppose on the opposite side of that, with Australia, a country which are absolutely obsessed with that cricket team, they want them to be performing year in, year out, being at least in the top 3 across the rankings every single year. They're a fiercely competitive country when it comes to their cricket team. The pressure now on the next head coach is going to be absolutely massive if things don't start off right. If they get off to a bad start, the public perception in Australia, trust me, turns very quickly, as Justin Langer actually found out with the Border Gavaskar Trophy series. So it's going to be interesting times in Australia. And obviously for England, I mean, where do we start? We haven't got a chair. We don't have a head coach. We've got an interim director of cricket. It's all just a mess, to be honest, between these two great cricketing rivals at the moment.
Yeah, which is crazy. I mean, obviously with Australia, it's a bit weird because they are coming off, as you mentioned, a couple of big wins. But I think it's a direction long term they want to go into. And the fact that he's turned that down, I think they probably would have expected him to. So hopefully they have some kind of contingency in place. And interestingly, it will be intriguing to see whether it is the interim head coach who takes them to Pakistan, which I'm really looking forward to because I've got a personal, obviously, interest in that, or whether it will be someone appointed. But I'd imagine it will be the interim head coach. But yeah, from the England front, I mean, there's been a big fallout from the Ashes. We discussed it in the Ashes review that we did with yourself, and obviously there was a blame game going around, and no one really wanted to take responsibility. And in the end, it kind of fell upon, well, first of all, it was Giles that resigned. So he kind of, off his own bat, I think he could have been sacked, who knows, but I think he probably knew as well that there's been a lot of emphasis put on, we need to sit down and actually about this and that and blah, blah, blah. And he probably was like, you know what, it's not worth it. And given that there has been a lot of emphasis put on his position and his influence, he would have known he's under scrutiny, a lot of scrutiny going forward. So he resigned. With Silverwood is a bit different. Obviously, we discussed it before that he was relieved, so basically got fired and sacked. Interesting record. I think his first 4 series, he actually won them, Test series, but then out of the last 5, he's lost 4 out of the 5. So yeah, kind of a massive turnaround, to be honest with you. And I think his ethos was big first innings scores, and they didn't score over 300 in the first innings in the Ashes. So that needs to be some blame placed on him. Of course, it's not all him, but I think the fact that he didn't also own up to, accepting some of the blame probably didn't help. He has been relieved of his duties, and an interesting now time for England because they've got an interim director of cricket in Andrew Strauss, who had that gig. I think it was just before 2018 when Giles took over. So he's kind of there. He's saying we're going to have to hire an interim head coach. They're looking at potential candidates. Obviously, Lang came up because now he's been relieved of his duties. He's resigned even from the Australian head coach role. I mean, English cricket is in a mess right now. I don't know what's going on. And going forward, it's going to be interesting to see who they put in place. They've got a couple of really big appointments to make. I think they need to make sure that people are on the same page. And also, are they going to give the head coach the same power that Silverwood did, where he's had more power than any coach for a long time who's been an England coach where he's head selector and also head coach? Or are they going to then rejig it again with Ashley Giles gone and say, no, we're going to have a selector again? So a lot of question marks.
Tons, Faizan. I mean, where do we even begin, to be honest? And I find it interesting, actually, we're mentioning all these resignations and departures. And yet the man at the very top of English cricket, a certain Tom Harrison, the Chief Executive Officer of the England and Wales Cricket Board, has been pretty silent, to be honest, and hasn't accepted much responsibility at all. And in fact, came out in an interview the other day claiming that he was the right man to lead English cricket forward, which, again, I've made my thoughts on him from a professional perspective in terms of his decisions. As head of the ECB, I haven't been a massive fan of them. And to be honest, he should have been one of the first to go, in my view. He is just as culpable. If he's going to play the blame game on Silverwood, on Graham Thorpe, and Ashley Giles, surely you have to take some responsibility as well. Hold yourself accountable, because your decisions have influenced this just as much as theirs. So he's someone else I think needs to go. I think the only reason he hasn't gone is because the ECB haven't got a permanent chair. Ian Watmore resigned in 2021, so we still haven't filled that vacancy. Personally speaking, I would have filled it by now. I would have gone after Wasim Khan. I thought he would have been an absolutely fantastic fit for that job. He did a great job at the Pakistan Cricket Board.
He did, yeah.
He knows English county cricket. He played for my county of Warwickshire for many years. I don't see why he was not given that position. He was perfect for it and even displayed interest. So that's the first thing. With regards to Silverwood, and again, from a cricketing perspective, I have been incredibly harsh on Silverwood. I will admit that, because I haven't liked his style. I didn't like it when he threw Don Bess under the bus in Ahmedabad. I didn't like it when he threw Leach under the bus in Brisbane. I didn't like it when he accepted no responsibility at all throughout that Ashes series. But with that being said, I have nothing against him personally, because he seems like a good bloke. And for all intents and purposes, from people I know who have played with him and coached with him, Chris Silverwood is a nice person. So I wish him the very, very best of luck in whatever he goes into next, whether that's county coaching, another international team, whether it's a different position in cricket. I genuinely wish Chris Silverwood the very best of luck, and I wish him all the best of success. But this just didn't work out. His coaching style was too similar to Root's captaincy. He didn't hold these players accountable in the right way. I think he did it in the wrong way in terms of the way in which he presented his arguments in the media. And to be honest, probably inexperience as well. And the problem with Silverwood that I had when he was appointed, after years of doing well with Essex, if you noticed Essex as a club, he took them on when they got promoted and then they won the championship. They competed in 2018 and then they won the championship again in 2019. Under his stint as head coach of Essex County Cricket Club, the club didn't face a massive adversity. He didn't have to overcome a massive challenge. Whereas with this England side, it's been there for years, let's be honest, and it's the batting. As soon as that presented itself in 2021, he just couldn't overturn it. And by that point, the dressing room was, not having the greatest of confidence in him. The media here, as we all know, very ruthless. They turned him in as well. And it was, it was inevitable. We all knew this was going to happen. So not surprised by that at all. Graham Thorpe as well, not surprised by that. He's been involved in the setup for many years now. English batting hasn't really improved. So no. I was expecting that. And with Ashley Giles as well, I feel like, just as you said, to be honest, Faizan, English cricket is a bit of a mess at the moment. Would he really want to overtake a big rebuild, a factory reset? It's a lot of pressure.
No, of course not. It's a lot more hassle than it's worth, I think, to be honest with you. And I think he is in a no-win situation. I think if he stayed on and it goes well, everyone says, well, it's not him because, he's just gone through this whole mess. If he stays and it goes badly, then it's even worse. So I just think either way, he doesn't come out of it any better than he is now. So may as well quit at this stage. But who knows? Maybe we'll have KP as a batting coach and Andy Flintoff as the head coach. Can you imagine? That'd be hilarious. But yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot of people.
That would be the worst thing for England. We need qualified people.
Joking. I know.
Can I just say, actually, with regards to the head coach position, because there is a lot of chat here in England at the moment about a split coaching role, which is something which Sussex County Cricket Club have done.
Bull,
exactly, with Ian Salisbury and James Kirtley. So it would be interesting if England adopted that route.
It's the way forward. And to be honest with you, Aaron, if you've got two different captains in Morgan and Root, and the way that they play is very different. The white ball side is very ultra aggressive. The red ball side isn't. We know that. The red ball side doesn't. That's not their brand of cricket. It's not, right. It's not.
Yet.
It's not roots. It's not. Well, yeah. Who knows? It could change, but that's not their brand of cricket. It hasn't been for many years. So if it's going to be completely different philosophies, you're going to have two different captains with completely different ways of thinking, which is understandable. They're two very different formats now, or two different, I guess, ways. Well, two formats and I guess a single format in the red ball. Then, yeah, like for me, it actually does make a lot of sense. They are becoming more and more different as time rolls on, and they're definitely, yes, there are still similarities, but you have more and more people specializing in specific formats. So I don't see why then you shouldn't have coaches also starting to specialize in formats as well.
The only question, though, who would it be? That is the
knows?
million-dollar question, isn't it? I mean, for me personally, in terms of red ball, as I said, I just don't see Justin Langer coming. I think he'd be a decent appointment. I'm going to be honest. As I said, his style, I think, is exactly what England need right now, but he would be a decent one. Ricky Ponting would be fantastic. If we were to split it as well, and he only had to do the odd, the odd test series.
He'd never come. He'd never come. Ricky Ponting definitely wouldn't come. You're dreaming. You're saying, well, if we split it, then he has less time. You can potentially do it. I think there's more chance of him taking a split coach position at Australia in a couple of years' time when they'll do it, because they will do it as well at some point. I think every country will do it at some point. I can't see it not being a way forward, considering how busy the schedules are nowadays as well. Yes, it does mean that you've got more people, you've got more chefs in the kitchen, and yes, there will be more there's a lot more relationships then between people, and you have to have better communication. And the red ball coach with the white ball coach, they have to be happy with the players that are, when they're not being rested, when are they being rested, especially if they cross over, etc. But I think it's something that is inevitable, I feel.
Well, we'll have to wait and see. I mean, we've seen it to slight degrees of success at Sussex. I suppose the Red Bull went horribly wrong. They finished bottom, actually, of Division 3. They got the wooden spoon in the Championship, but they did make it to finals day. In the T20 Blast, they did compete with a very, very young and inexperienced team in the Royal Under One Day Cup. So we'll have to wait and see. But if we were to split it, obviously a lot of talk and a lot of focus is on the test coach. And again, Gary Kirsten, he's another one definitely in the mix. I know that a lot of people have viewed him as a very popular candidate for the role. In terms of the white ball coach, I want to throw someone out there who people may or may not know, and people may or may not be in favour of this, but I've been a big fan of his work for a very, very long time, and it's Richard Dawson. The former Gloucestershire head coach is now doing work with the England Lions. I think of what he achieved with Gloucestershire County Cricket Club, and you mentioned ultra aggressive. The batting lineup, and he always had Michael Klinger at the top. And as we know, Michael Klinger, fantastic batsman, absolutely sensational. At the top, they'd have him. Obviously, you got the power of Ian Cobain, as we're seeing in the PSL now. Jack Taylor, Chris Dennett in there as well to supplement that. Miles Hammond. He had a really distinct white ball style, and he did really well with Gloss. Not only did he get them promoted from Division 2 to Division 1 in the Championship in red ball, but in white ball as well in 2020. He got them to T20 Blast Finals Day, a team which, let's be honest, wasn't massively fancied by many. And even then, that might have been their first Finals Day in over a decade, but it got them to the quarterfinals in something like 3 or 4 consecutive seasons. So for me, Richard Dawson would be a really, really interesting, outside of the box choice, admittedly, but I think he would be an interesting one. And I think his style, I think his approach to coaching would suit that English white ball team very nicely.
I should ask Benny Howell about him, actually, because obviously he plays for Gloucestershire and has played there for a few years, and I've talked to him a few times on the podcast, on the channel even as well. So I might ask him, actually, what does he bring? What are his thoughts on it?
What he brings, I'll tell you, Faizan. I'll tell you what he brings, right? He brings a real togetherness. He brings unity. If you look at that Gloucestershire dressing room, they are like a family. And again, maybe that's something which the English test team, maybe at the moment, don't need. But with a successful white ball team, you want that unity, you want that togetherness. We've seen it under Morgan's captaincy. So I'm just saying, it's an out there suggestion. But I think either, maybe not in the immediate future, but maybe later down the line, I genuinely think he's one of the best coaches in this country. I don't see why he couldn't fulfill the role.
No. I get exactly what you're saying. And look, there's been weirder appointments, to be honest with you. That's not a particularly weird one if they're going to split it out. But yeah, very intriguing times ahead. We'll see how it all pans out. Obviously, a lot of appointments to be filled, a lot of decisions to be made. Are they going to rejig the system around again in terms of responsibilities and roles? Who knows? We'll see. Is there anything you want to touch on before we wrap up?
Just one final thing, to be honest, from me, Faizan, and that is, of course, with regards to the Under-19 World Cup final, just wishing England nothing but the very best of luck. They've been absolutely fantastic. I've loved this competition. Have you been keeping up with it, Faizan?
Yeah, I have. I haven't watched a lot of it, but I've been keeping up with kind of the scores and also who's been performing well. I know Rehan Ahmed, the leg spinner, has been really good for England, if I'm not mistaken. And I always have a vested interest in leg spinners. But yeah, I know that he's. I think they're strong at the moment, England. But yeah, we'll see how they go. But yeah, it's been good. I know you've kept up with it more. Anyone that people should be definitely keeping an eye out for?
Loads. In fact, I'll start with Pakistan first because there's two who have really stood out to me. Hasibullah, really, really impressed, first and foremost, and Kazim Akram.
Yeah.
My word, those two, very, very high ceilings. Obviously, the record breaker, Devonta Bravis from South Africa, ridiculous competition, has taken the record from Shikhar Dhawan. Was insane, 2 centuries and 3 50s.
Wow.
Doesn't get much better than that. Dunith Willalaga as well from Sri Lanka. Left arm off spinner, you know me, Faizan. Love my off spin.
Yeah.
Talking of left arm offies as well. Also top order batter. Jacob Bethel from my county of Warwickshire. He has been absolutely sensational, as has Rian Ahmed. Love his googly. It's one of the best deliveries, I think, in youth ODI cricket right now. I've been watching it for ages. And, I've been speaking to his coaches at Leicestershire, talking to his teammates. They all believe in him. They think he really is going to rise to the top. So remember the name Rian Ahmed. And just one final one as well from India, Raj Bauer. He's really, really impressed me. I know that Yash Dul, there's a lot of talk about him, but he's really impressed me as well, as has Teague Wiley from Australia. So let's be honest. Okay, that's just rattling names off the top of my head. There's a lot of talent in the game right now, and it's been an absolute pleasure. It's been a privilege to watch it, to be honest. And these are the future stars. I cannot wait to see how these guys develop. So, as I said, wishing the two teams the best of luck today. Fingers crossed England can get the job done, win the trophy for the first time in 24 years. But even if they don't, they've done us immensely proud. I'm incredibly proud to have watched the young Lions and obviously wishing them all the best of luck on the next steps in their cricketing journey.
No, agreed. Yeah, I mean, there's some very exciting players coming through, and it'll be great to see which one's able to come through and obviously make it and play not just county cricket, but for England. And also there's others that unfortunately, they might drop off a little bit, but overall it's a very positive experience, I think, overall. And I think I talked to Hamid Qadri, who plays for Kent, the off spinner, and he talked about his experience in the Under-19 World Cup, which would have been now a couple of years ago now.
2020.
Yeah, so 2 years ago.
He was in it with Dan Mousley and Jack Haynes.
Yes, yeah, exactly. And he kind of taught me through it and some of the players. So what's his name? The Zimbabwean player who's Mazakadze. I think I've forgotten his name. Isn't that not Mazakadze? It's I've completely forgotten his name. The all-rounder,
Wesley Madavira.
Yes, Wesley Madavira. Exactly. Yeah, off spinner. Yes, exactly. I could going to say exactly. Off spinner and also opening batsman. And he said he was just class. Like he was a standout for him in that tournament, which is really interesting. But yeah, looking forward to seeing who comes through. And in fact, my brother's actually played with one of the England under-19 players when he was a bit younger, but he's in the squad. So it's
who was it? Nathan Barnwell. Sorry.
Yeah, Nathan Barnwell.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah. Very nice.
Yeah. So he, I remember coaching my brother actually when he was between the ages of about 11 and 15. And all the kids were scared of him because he was absolutely rapid at that age. He's so tall as well. And he just clean people up and then he bowl quick and just short. And at that times they were like, Oh, the kids were so scared of him. But he was so quick at that age. But yeah, really cool to see him in there as my brother was like, yeah, he's in there. I was like, oh, amazing. He's made it, which is cool. But yeah, anyway, thank you very much, Aaron, for being on. Do appreciate it, guys. Do check out Aaron on YouTube. Of course, the Cricket Connoisseur also on all good podcast platforms, which is the County Cricketer. We are also now on podcast platforms as well. So the longer videos, obviously commentary, etc., we still do on YouTube. All the videos are all on here as well. But if you do like listening to audio, we are now on Spotify, Anchor, I think Google Podcasts and Apple Podcasts. So yeah, do check us out there and give us a follow if you want to also keep up to date with the audio and just like listening to it in the car or all sorts. I know some people prefer that. Thank you very much, guys. Stay safe and well, and I'll see you on the next video.